Great seeing all of you. I'm also deeply touched that here we are in sunny Arizona. Almost everybody I've spoken to here is from back east or Chicago like me. So the fact that you're here and that you're not sitting by the pool with a cold drink is deeply gratifying and proves that you're dedicated to content marketing. So as Carol said, I'm first and foremost a research analyst. And what I would like to do is present some research that I co-authored last year with my colleague Susan Ettlinger, who is a data expert. I'm the content marketing and content strategy expert on content measurement. And the crux of this is, according to another research study that I did, 67% of marketers said measurement is their top challenge in content marketing. This is true for a lot of reasons. That's because marketers tend to commit a lot of content marketing without the underpinnings of content strategy. Content strategy answers the why are we doing it, what's our goal, and how are we going to measure it. But also, as Carol said, content marketing in digital is a relatively new discipline. We've got emerging tools, emerging technologies, emerging tactics, zillions of vendors, low visibility for the entire discipline because I'm sure many of you have Marcom departments, social media divisions, but the head of content, that chief content officer, is still a very elusive beast. So what are we going to measure? The only thing that every tool on the market has in common is a dashboard, but what use are all those dashboards unless they're measuring towards a goal? And we're also trying to do content in conjunction with a lot of cultural goals, with every outward-facing aspect of the organization. So KPIs have to evolve in tandem with corporate strategy. Are you doing content marketing for sales? Are you trying to boost reputation? Are you trying to hire, recruit, and retain employees? Lots and lots of reasons to do content marketing. So with all of these confusing factors going on, marketers tend to default to measuring volume rather than business results. Volume is likes, it's tweets, it's reshares. All that stuff is really nice, but what does it really tell you? So what I'd like to talk to you about this morning is not just feeding the beast, not just making more content to meet content goals, publishing every day at a fast velocity, but actually creating content that meets business goals that go beyond just sales. Sales are great, sales are marvelous, sales are what makes companies live and die, but sales are not the only goal that can be quantified to a bottom line. And when Carol says content metrics you can take to the C-suite, I want you to be able to take these metrics not just to the CEO and the CMO, but even the CFO. I want you to be able to append dollar values to the content that you're creating. So this is what I'd like to talk to you about this morning, a framework for measuring content that goes beyond sales, 6 case studies to hopefully inspire you to ramp up your metrics, and then talking about how to incorporate these new metrics into your overall content strategy. So I also am going to go really fast through this. I usually take a little longer to present this deck than the time allotted. So excuse me for speeding, but I did check, and the deck is going to be made available to all of you for download, or you can ask me for a copy of it as I rush through it. This is my framework for content strategy metrics beyond just sales. There's innovation, brand health, marketing optimization, revenue generation, operational efficiency, and customer experience. So what I'm going to do today is show you B2B case studies in the most, I think one B2C case study, that correspond to all of these, that have numbers, that have dollar amounts attributed to them that you can track and prove the value of your content efforts and of your department. And hopefully with that, get more dollars and get more budget to do even more content marketing. And of course, these 6 points of my content compass are just a starting point. Your own organization might have its own goals. So my role here this morning is really to inspire you to think beyond that sales box into broader content metrics. So let's look at some case studies, and I'd like to start with brand health. And brand health is the response and the hopefully favorability that emerges out of the content that you create that measures interest, measures behavior, measures propensity to purchase, and also the reaction to content that can help you more effectively decide where to invest content dollars, whether it's paid, owned, or earned media. So let's look at Xerox. Xerox wanted to use, whoops, I'm tripping over the stage. Xerox wanted to use digital to increase its brand value and to educate customers and prospects. They launched an initiative they called Return on Optimism. They created surveys, they created intellectual capital, they created online publications, they even created a print magazine. Get Optimistic targeted 30 specific Xerox accounts that the company identified, and Cheap Optimist magazine, which was part of a partnership with Forbes, was also launched. And these were available across a multiplicity of channels. There are podcasts, there are online website-based blogs, and of course the Real Business print magazine. And one of the things that Xerox was measuring was total engagement over time. You use those engagement numbers, those likes, those shares, those tweets, not just to sort of, crosshatch on a post with, people like us, they're reading us, but to say, oh, this kind of content is working with our target audience. This is driving those 33 key accounts forward. It's enabling better conversations with our salespeople. Let's create more like this and less like that. So it's moving beyond those volume metrics to find out what's working and to find out how to turbocharge marketing initiatives. And by doing that, these are some of the real actual business results that Xerox saw. 70% of the companies that they were targeting engaged with their microsite. They saw 300 to 400% growth in email because they're using their content to create better content going forward. But even more than that, they're filling their pipeline, 20,000 new contacts, over 1,000 scheduled appointments, and $1 billion in new business revenue. So all of this data informs their communication strategy, informs their content strategy, and helps them to optimize their tactics and their content moving forward. That's taking these volume metrics like likes and shares and email opens, but turning it into something tangible and something meaningful in a business sense. Because we're pressed for time, I'm not going to get into the weeds of the actual metrics that you can use to measure these kinds of things, but if you download this deck or if you download this research report, which is on my personal website, you can get into all of these very tactical elements of how to measure sentiment, how to measure share of voice, brand health, all of these aspects of what Xerox was measuring in order to get to this $1 billion in new revenue. The second example I'd like to share with you today is marketing optimization. Marketing optimization is really about taking whatever it is that you're doing in marketing and bumping it up to the next level, becoming more efficient, becoming more effective, becoming more streamlined. And an example of this in the B2B sector that I really like is Fisher Tank. Fisher makes those enormous tanks, there's a picture of one there, that sit in industrial facilities. They hold water, they hold chemicals. And Fisher is an old company that was doing things very, very old school. Their salespeople were cold calling people and saying, do you want us to build you a tank? You can see how this might be less than effective in today's world. So Fisher modernized. They went digital. They optimized their website. They started a blog. They called it, and I think this is a very clever name, the Think Tank blog. They created downloadable content assets for customers and for prospects. They built a social media presence. In short, Fisher went from cold calling to full-on digital. This is something a lot of B2B companies are a little late in doing. I'm working with some clients right now that are only just now beginning to get very serious about capturing leads through community, capturing leads through a blog, capturing leads through email. And what happened after 60 years of cold calling clients? Their social media traffic is up 4,800%, which of course, if you're going from zero, it is going to go up significantly. But lead conversion is up almost 4,000%. And even better, inbound quotes, remember this was all outbound cold calling, is up by a factor of 5. These, again, are very quantifiable metrics, not just, oh, people like us on Facebook, or they're following our videos, or they're downloading our content, but we can attach dollars to those leads. We know that, for example, the lifetime value of a customer differs by industry, by company, but that is a quantifiable number. Quote requests up 500%. A company knows they're going to win maybe 25 to 50% of those quotes. That's a number that you can take to your CFO. Marketing optimization metrics are largely based around cost savings. There's different aspects of marketing that you can apply them to. And again, I'm not going to go through these very dense metric slides in the interest of time today, but I encourage you to download this and to look into it. Number 3 is revenue generation metrics. Where is your company generating revenue? How is it generating revenue? And how are you using content to drive prospects through the sales funnel and through the customer journey funnel to get from awareness and consideration down to a sale? So Lennox Tools, this is a company owned, interestingly, I didn't know this, by Rubbermaid. They make metal cutting tools. So again, very, very B2B, very, very industrial. They use search. They use what I like to call utility content, online calculators and other apps that help you determine what tool do you need for what specific job, what drill cuts what metal at what velocity. White papers, thought leadership, social media to engage customers at different stages of the buying process. And they make sure that everywhere you are in the buying and consideration process, there is content to address every question, every need, every consideration that a potential client might have. They also have a lot of educational content on how to prolong the life of your tools, how to sharpen your tools, what your tools can and can't do. And their content experience is really planned to drive across the entire panoply of the digital ecosystem. In consideration, they're looking at paid and organic traffic, social media likes and followers. But then when people move closer to a purchase, they're measuring how big is an order? What's the time to purchase? Can content reduce, for example, a 2-week consideration down to a 1-week consideration? You can place monetary value on that depending on what you're selling and what business you're in. Have we increased conversions? That's an actual sales metric. But then there are loyalty metrics. Is content helping you to cross into upsell? Are you getting customers to recommend your brand, your products, your tools to other customers? That's another win. That's another aspect to which you can attribute dollars and cents. Is there short and long-term revenue potential to selling a tool to somebody that, for example, needs replacement blades? That's a long-term revenue potential. And then, of course, there's innovation, crowdsourcing new product ideas, working with customers to develop new products and new services. So when Lennox started to create content and started to create incentives for customers to engage with them across their customer journey, They got 50% growth in new leads. So again, a quantifiable number, dollars and cents amount, and their pipeline increased by 10%. So that's content marketing that you can take to the bank. And this was really, with the exception of a little bit of paid search, 100% pure owned media and shared media initiative. So revenue generation metrics really boil down to two things: to popularity. This again is the volume metrics. Are people engaging with your content, reading it, sharing it, downloading it, using it if it's an online tool such as a calculator? And productivity, time to market of content. Are you be able to create it quickly enough to meet the needs and the expectations of those consumers, and the impact that that content ultimately has on where they are in the purchase cycle? Our next point of metrics that aren't directly related to sales is operational efficiency. And content strategy, as you know, is only getting more complicated. This isn't just a hire a blogger or an out-of-work journalist world anymore. This is build an app, make a video. Content is getting more and more complex. It's getting more and more expensive. And there are operational efficiencies to consider. A company that obviously has a lot of efficiencies to consider is Unilever. B2C, I know, but this is really a B2B case study. Unilever has hundreds and hundreds of brands across the entire world, and millions of fans, thousands of people involved, dozens and dozens of agencies. So efficiency is absolutely key when Unilever is creating content. One of the problems that Unilever was having was just the product shot. Once you have that hero product shot approved in the United States, it's not necessarily approved in Africa or in the UK or other English-speaking countries. So Unilever adapted just one tool, and that tool in this case, credit where it's due, was Percolate, and initially only adapted it across 3 brands, Knorr Soup, Hellmann's Mayonnaise, and Surf Laundry Detergent. The company recognized over $1 billion in savings in operational efficiency. The first year, they streamlined content operations by putting everybody on the same platform and using the same tools and getting approved content out to different countries, agencies, internal divisions. And now, of course, Unilever is deploying this across many, many other brands. Operational efficiency metrics all boil down to productivity and cost savings. Are you reinventing the wheel every day, or are you taking things and moving them forward? Again, this had nothing to do with sales. Even if they never sold another can of soup or bottle of mayonnaise, Unilever still saved $1 billion across 3 brands the first year they did this. That's money you can take to the CEO. Customer experience is another place where content can help immeasurably. And I think a lot of marketers know this, but I think what a lot of marketers fail to do is take into account what the monetary value is of this newfound efficiency that they've developed with content. I happened to be in Europe, and I met a guy by the name of Nico Hendricks, who heads community for Sony out of the Netherlands. And Nico was doing what really good content marketers do. He was spending shoe leather, walking around the company, talking to other outwardly facing divisions, and finding out what's up, what are our customers worried about. He talked to the head of Sony's call center, and she told him that the call center was suddenly being inundated with calls about a certain television set. Customers were having trouble figuring out what one of the buttons did, or something really minor. The fix was totally easy, but the problem that Sony was wrestling with is it cost the company €7, so roughly $7, every time somebody picks up the phone and says, I can't figure out how this thing in my TV works. What did Nico do? He went back to his desk. He created about 2 paragraphs of content on how to troubleshoot this issue. It cost Sony exactly $0 for this to happen, threw it up on the website, and in 2 weeks, those 2 paragraphs were viewed 42,000 times. This is easy enough math that even I can almost do it in my head. 42,000 calls times €7 is a savings of roughly $350,000. In just the first 2 weeks, those 2 paragraphs of content were up on Sony's website. So lots of content marketers are doing this, but what they're not doing is taking that final step and saying, hey, I just deflected 42,000 calls from the call center, and that represents real savings and real money from for the organization. And every single one of you has the power to do this very, very simple savings kind of math. So customer experience metrics are based on popularity, how many people are looking at the content, and what does that correlate to? What else could they be doing if they weren't looking at the content? But also potential issues and red flags. When you find out that the call center is kind of heating up around an issue, that there's this problem, you know, kind of snowballing in the distance, you can fight back with content and save your organization a lot of money that might otherwise be dealt with in other more expensive, more cumbersome, more manual channels. My final point of my content metrics compass, which is 6 points, but there could be a lot more points, is innovation, product innovation. And content can be an extremely effective way to solicit ideas and engagement and then put them into action in all kinds of aspects of the organization. We've seen this, for example, I'm sure some of you are familiar with My Starbucks Idea, which is a website where people submit ideas to Starbucks, and then the community votes up their favorite ideas, and then Starbucks will implement those very popular ideas. But I wanted to show you an example of new products occurring as a result of content marketing. This was originally an Australian case study, but Domino's has since actually moved it to the United States. So Domino's wanted to engage their customers, and they also want to increase their menu and increase their revenues. They're a business. So they enabled their customers via an app to create new pizza recipes, because pizza is kind of a finite universe of red sauce and cheese and vegetables and sausage and things like that. They quantified the most popular pizzas, and they rewarded those who shared their recipes by giving them a cut of sales. So if you invented a really popular pizza, you might have gotten 10% or 20% of the sales. People named their pizzas. They tried to publicize their pizzas on social media. But what they also did was the pizzas that were really super popular, they made a permanent part of the Domino's menu. They went past R&D, they went past all that backroom stuff that goes with testing new recipes, because this sort of gamification of how to develop new products all happened with content and all happened out in the open, and they were able to expand their menu and also to reward the customers that helped them do it. So innovation metrics boil down to things like productivity. How fast can you get something to market, you know, from the formal way versus a more informal way like this. We also saw that with Fisher Tools. They're soliciting ideas for better ways to cut and drill holes in metal. And also this is, again, a popularity game. What pizza is the most popular? But again, not just the volume metrics, but how did you convert that pizza into an actual product, and what is the monetary value of the speed to market of that innovation? So let's say that you want to get involved in this and you want to build better metrics and better measurement into your content strategy. What are the next steps? First, you remember that there is no content strategy without metrics. Content strategy is not what content are we going to create, it's why are we creating content, what are the business goals we're trying to meet in doing so, and how are we going to know if we're meeting those goals? That how are we going to know is all about measurement. And I really find that marketers are kind of reluctant to add measurement and KPIs to content strategy. I think there's a subconscious kind of belief that if we put a measurement framework around this. It's immutable. We never, ever, ever get to change it. It's what we always have to measure. I'm here to tell you today that is not true. You are allowed to change your measurements and your metrics and your KPIs. But if you don't start with something, you've got absolutely nothing to go on. 2 is every measurement strategy must focus on business outcome. Facebook likes are great, but map them back to, we got a lot of likes on that, so we know that this kind of content is most popular with our audience. We're going to use this to inform content going forward, not just we got 3 more thumbs up this week, than last week. Or we know that this product is getting more popular, so let's invest more time and effort in promoting it, and maybe we'll see more sales or increase our pipeline. But please, business outcome, not mere popularity for popularity's sake. Know your metrics and data. Know what it's possible to measure. Know what it's not possible to measure. Different companies have different levels of resources. Some companies can get away with just using Google Analytics. Other companies are going to be using very, very complex, bespoke solutions that you need an army of quants to operate. So know what your limits are. Know what you can measure and work from these accordingly. And be realistic about your organizational capabilities and tools. Some of you can afford to go very, very big, but everything's got a dashboard these days. Google Analytics is free, so you're going to be able to get some pretty good metrics regardless of your size or your resources. And finally, make sure that your measurement integrates with all of the other tools and technology you're using for content marketing. This framework is from some other research I did on the content market technology landscape. And it shows where all of these intersections of technology integration have to fall, everywhere from your advertising and your search data, sometimes even to business applications such as CRM and call centers or syndication. So before investing in any tools or measurement, really make sure that it's as future-proof as possible by playing nice with others. No technology is an island these days. And I think that about does it for all the time I have. But I am going to be sitting in the what's it called, Carol? The expert bar or something? The B2B expert bar today at 3:25. I'd love to talk with you after this session or answer any one-on-one questions there later on. So thank you all very much for your time and attention today.